let's move on to our next speaker, and that would be Denis Grey, and he'll present about deep in the heart of West Texas. Take it away, Denis.
Hi, Paul. Thanks very much for the opportunity to present again. And again, sorry for diving into the vault here and pulling up a presentation from earlier in my presentation career. My name's Denis Grey. I'm from the RESC Toronto Centre, and I've been talking about astronomy for a while. And over that time, I've had a few adventures. Tonight's presentation on some equipment stuff didn't come together as fast as I wanted to, so I'm going to do that next month. Paul's graciously offered me a slot there. But what I thought I would do is take us back in a little bit of time and tell you a little bit about a really great road trip I took in 2009 to the Texas Star Party. And we'll talk about where the Texas Star Party is at today at the end of this presentation. So here we go. So first off, I'll talk a little bit about star parties in general and compare the Texas Star Party with the Star Party that a lot of us have gone to, which is the Starfest Star Party, which is happening again this year in August, late August, excuse me, up near Hanover, Ontario. And I've got some pictures from my adventure there. Talk a little bit about some considerations for traveling to an event like this. It's fairly far away, and give you some ideas for how you might fit it into your astronomy plan. So for those of you who've never heard of a star party before or think it has something to do with the Oscars, this is what a star party is from an astronomer's perspective, which is that they are generally camping-based excursions that happen around a new moon weekend. And the camping obviously gets you out under dark skies. If you're in a hotel, there's going to be a lot of lights around, so camping type locations are favored. And astronomers come out and share and appreciate the night sky. And what happens is you do a lot of observing. You go to bed late, you get up late, but in the afternoon, in the early evening, there's lots of opportunities to meet and greet with other astronomers and do some fun activities. And those fun activities can happen whether it's cloudy or not. So often over a star party, if it goes for 3 or 4 or 5 days, you might have a couple of cloud out nights, and those opportunities are opportunities for sing-alongs, campfires, whatever. But when the skies are clear, people get their telescopes out and moving, and usually have a lot of fun. And along those lines, we have things like vendor and swap tables, and lots of astronomy talks, which are a really nice opportunity to hear really good presentations from people that you normally wouldn't get a chance to hear from. And certainly there's some great opportunities for spotting deep sky objects that you wouldn't normally have because you're usually under a nice dark sky. You've got some opportunities. And depending on where these things are located, you can have anywhere from 75 to well over 1,000 people on site, depending on where is it, how well it's organized, and how close it is to sort of a major metropolitan area. If we compare the Texas Star Party with Starfest, this gives you some ideas about relative size and so on. Texas Star Party is very well known. It's kind of world renowned as a great star party, but it doesn't get as many people as Starfest because it's not really that close to anything else, right? It's literally in the middle of a desert area near the Mexican border in the west part of Texas. It's a very sparsely populated area. It takes a bit of commitment to get there. The timing, though, is very different. So it's April, May. So it just happened last weekend, the new moon over the weekend of April 30th. That was when it was held. So it's a spring sky event. You get, if you stay up late enough, you get the you get the summer constellations towards the morning. There's an opportunity to see some winter highlights just after sunset, but a lot of it is spring galaxies, and those objects are highlighted. Lots of speakers at this event, and one of the things that makes Texas Star Party so good is that it's relatively accessible to the Houston Space Center, NASA. So when I was there, we had 2 great speakers who were there from the Houston Space Center. So they brought awesome talks, awesome slides, awesome everything, and that was cool. The location for the Texas Star Party, they have actual motel rooms and bunk houses. as well as opportunities for camping and RV use. So this is a bit of a step up from Starfest. So Starfest does have some motels in the neighborhood, so you can, stay in a motel about 20 kilometers away or so from Starfest. But at Texas, they actually can get you into an actual motel room or a bunkhouse on site, so that you don't necessarily have to bring a tent or a trailer, which makes it a lot more accessible for people like us coming from a long way away. They have an on-site cafeteria and dining room, which allows you to eat on site. They have a swimming pool. That's nice. So does Starfest. Starfest is very nice. And one of the cool features is the major observatory nearby, and I'll talk about that and show some pictures from our visit. And of course, the distance is a big deal. It's about 10 times as far away as Starfest is, so that does tend to make it a little bit less accessible, but it can be gotten to. So my particular journey back in 2009, I went from Austin. So I was going to Austin for a business meeting and saw this opportunity and flew in a few days early and set up, grabbed a car, rented a car in Austin, and then drove basically straight across the state on Interstate 10, passing by the caves of Sonoma, which was a pretty cool experience, and then getting off of the highway and then going up through Fort Davis to location here, which is where the Prude Ranch is. So the West Texas Star Party is held on a place called the Prude Ranch, which is a sort of, basically it's a summer camp, but everything in Texas is a ranch. So it's a ranch. It's not a camp. It's a ranch. But anyway, that is just, you got to get used to the local way of doing things and the local way of talking things. You are in a foreign country, and and then you're in a foreign country within a foreign country when you're in Texas. So traveling from Austin to get to the Star Party, it was a really nice drive. It was long. It took about 8 hours altogether, but there was some beautiful scenery along the way. The large part of it is the desert part. You can see it's a barren seabed from the Cambrian era, and there's a lot of oil fields. Obviously, a lot of windmills at that time. They were really ramping up their windmill production, but you could see some really well cut sedimentary layers in the highway, and as it was spring, we still had some flowering plants and so forth. So it was really quite a nice journey. Gives you an idea of kind of outside of Austin, about a quarter of the way there. You can see we had some trees. It's still a little scrubby. You can see it's drying out, but it's still kind of a nice area to drive through. Obviously the roads and everything very good shape and so forth down there. So when I finally arrived there 8 hours later or so, this was the the greeting. So essentially you have this the guest ranch here, and there are some signs here that are related to the check-in process that they welcome you at the gate. Pretty good security I found there in terms of checking you in, checking you off, and so forth. And they actually ran a fairly strong COVID protocol. People who are arriving this year were expected to be vaccinated or have a negative test in order to participate in the Star Party. So I thought that was pretty sensible. And when you get in there, you find that you're on this site. So this is the main gate that I just showed the picture of here at the bottom, and then you essentially come in. There's some set of sites here in terms of areas, and these three areas, the central field, upper field, and lower field, are all kind of reserved for telescope observing. The lower field is farther away from everything else, and so most folks set up here in the upper field, and there was also some people here in the central field. You can see here the motel rooms that are arranged, so they're sort of scattered in little blocks of four here and there, and they're essentially organized in different areas. There's some are these ones here that are named Mountainside, Walnut, Buzzard's Roost. These are actually quite nice. They look like they would hold 4 or 5 people, and have a kitchenette and so forth. So they're actually quite nice. These are more utility things. And then here is the Happy Trails Bunkhouse. That's where I was set up for my visit there, and that's part of that process. So the dining hall is here. The auditorium is here. This is where the presentations were held, and the swimming pool and so forth and everything there. So everything is really close together. Very easy to walk from one thing to another. and you get the sense that everything is well organized. And even back in 2009, they had fairly good Wi-Fi service available. But this is kind of what the kind of landscape you're in the middle of here. So you can see here this dry hillside. This is spring. You'd think, well, it would be, this is about as wet as it gets, but it's not that wet at all. But still, this is kind of what we're looking for as astronomers. Nice, dry, clear skies. So this was good, and this was the bunkhouse that I was staying in here, and that's my little rental car parked out front. 5,000 feet elevation, 30 degrees north latitude, and what that meant, which was kind of cool, was there was a significantly group of southern sky that's visible. Now, it's not quite as far south as Florida for, say, the winter star party, but still, Omega Centauri was visible and available. A lot more of Centaurus was rising. You could see a lot more of the Milky Way when it came up late at night. So it was a pretty impressive kind of thing, and you're not actually having to go that far, but you get a significantly different part of the night sky available to you. And that 5,000 feet of elevation meant that atmospheric extinction near the horizon was significantly reduced. So one of the things that I found was really cool was like when you were looking, say, to the west or to the north, like the stars closer to the horizon were still bright and punchy, and you were able to see a lot more coming through um, that reduced amount of atmospheric haze. Now, the atmosphere was dry and it was thin, but it was also dusty. So that wasn't a perfect situation all the time, but still pretty cool. This was the bunkhouse accommodation. So I was sharing this space with two other gentlemen, and we had a shared bathroom, which is just behind the door over there. You can see how they blacked out all the windows on it so that if you were in the bunkhouse at night, you weren't going to let any stray light out. So I thought that was a nice touch. The volunteers did an excellent job there. And I was working with a portable kit here where I had my old Nexstar drive with a portable battery that I picked up in Texas, and then I had a refractor telescope that I was using there. However, as I recall, most of my observing, I was on observing mooch, which is also an option for you when you go to a star party. You can be an observing mooch as long as you're polite and thoughtful. You can go and visit other people, especially the people with a 24-inch obsession, Dobsonian, that's pointing at something amazing, and appreciate a lot of views. So that's one strategy to go to a star party is don't bring a telescope at all. Just bring in binoculars and a friendly attitude, and you can see an enormous amount of good stuff when you're there. The observing field, this is sort of a picture of what the observing field can kind of look like. You'll see a lot of people bringing their big Dobs, so there's certainly a lot of that going on. They discourage cars parking on the observing field except for loading and unloading, and then they have it marked off so that you can see things there. But you can again see how dry it is. That's grass you're looking at, that brown stuff on the ground. That's not just dirt, that's grass too, but it all pretty well blends together because it's a very dry climate there, obviously. The Texas Star Party attracts astronomy vendors, so you can go and do some shopping. This particular vendor here, I've seen them at a few other star parties in the States. They do a couple of services. One is they have some cool stuff that you can pay a lot of money for, but these folks will also have things like tiny little screws that might have fallen out of your telescope when you were traveling, or a small replacement O-ring or something like that. And the parts drawers that these people have is often just fantastic, and it's a really nice thing to have when you're traveling. So I was kind of impressed to see how well organized this was, and how thoughtful it was in terms of what they brought with them, because you really are very far away from anywhere else. And this is also true places like Starfest as well. So the vendors who come to those events and bring the spare parts that you need are particularly welcome. Now, for the 2009 program, when I was there, we had Terence Dickinson there, who gave a presentation on his visit to the Atacama Desert. We also had Jack Newton, who is a famous Canadian astrophotographer, also gave a presentation there. And Don Pettit came in from NASA to give us a presentation on amateur astronomy from the ISS. And I still remember this presentation. This fellow had a problem where he was trying to take pictures from the International Space Station. They were all getting blurred. And it was like he was able to figure out a way, well, if he took some junk that was left over from when they filmed an IMAX movie, and he powered it up. He could get his camera to go and do a reverse thing so that it would actually offset the motion of the space station and freeze the frame. So he was able to show us pictures of places like Montreal and New York City, snapped and done really, really well there. And also, a talk about DSLR focus. So my impression was great speakers, really good program, excellent opportunity to talk to them afterwards and so forth. So it was really good. One of the big great things about this was the local attraction, which was just not that far away. So this is the road coming in here. This is the the ranch, where we were staying here. You can just sort of see it there. And just up the road, really, a little ways, is up a little bit higher up the mountain, is the local attraction, which is MacDonald Observatory. So the Texas Star Party got its start as a small star party outside of MacDonald Observatory. They attracted 50 people or so the first time, and then they went, well, that's too much people for our research institution, and so they drove down the road and found the Prude Ranch, and the rest is sort of history. But this is a major U.S. national observatory, and they've got three honkin' big telescopes here. The 82-inch Struve telescope is very similar to the one at the DDO, and then they have the Harlan J. Smith telescope, which was built in 1968, and then the 9.2-meter Hobby-Eberle Telescope, which is really, really large. And it's an interesting design because it's not fully pointable in every direction, so it has a limitation, but 9.2 meters still, that's pretty cool. And one of the great things about it is when you get to the Texas Star Party, they have a special tour and a bus that takes you there, kind of thing, as part of the deal. And there's also a really nice visitor center there that you can visit, which has got astronomy T-shirts and all kinds of other cool things. So we took the bus. You could see the observatory here on our way through, and on our way up there has a nice little welcome sign here in terms of showing up. And you're actually climbed up further to get up to the observatory, and there's a little sign here saying summit of Mount Locke is the highest point on Texas highways, 6,793 feet. So that is pretty high up, and again, you can feel the sky being, clearer. The air is thinner, obviously, but still really quite cool location. We went to see the Harlan J. Smith telescope. While we were there, we also saw the truck that was doing the laser bouncing off the moon, doing the precise measurements of the moon's relative distance to the Earth using lasers and hitting the laser reflectors left by the Apollo astronauts. So we saw the truck that does that. They're not currently doing that research. I think they figured it out to within 1/10,000th of an inch or whatever it is, but they are doing that now, and that's continuing there. So we went in, we had the welcome, and they have these walls where they've decorated and put up these signs that are really nice. At the time we were talking about, the DDO had just been sold by U of T, and we were thinking this would be a cool thing to do at the DDO as well. And then going into that telescope, you can see this one here. It's built on pretty massive mount, and it's fully steerable. So this was one that was bigger than the Struve telescope, but essentially we were able to get underneath it. And this was the telescope operator here, and I'm looking at it, and it's kind of like "don't drop on me" kind of thing. We were all really impressed, and this fellow here is using the joystick to move the telescope around. That's the yellow thing he has in his hand. The Otto Struve telescope. This one was built in 1936, and very similar to some of the ones that we've seen at that time. Same kind of battleship engineering that kept everything there, and I was able to go up and look straight down into the main mirror of that telescope, and that was a pretty cool experience. And then the other one, this is the trailer over here. This was where the moon laser measurements were happening from, was over there with that little brown things on top. Now the Hobby-Eberle Telescope was really impressive. This one is the hunkin' big one, and this one here essentially has a mirror that is on a platform, and the whole platform can rotate, so it's able to move around within that area. And the way it works is they have these pads, and this is a highly um, polished surface. And what they do is they forcibly inject air, which lifts all of these pads up a little bit off the ground, and then they're able to move that thing around on segments there. And they're able to track on an object for up to 2 hours at a time. They get about 81% sky coverage, which is pretty good considering how much money they saved on the mount. So they got a 9.2-inch mirror, or 9.2-meter mirror, weighs a bloody ton when they get 81% of the sky. And they have various spectrographs, and it was at the time the 5th largest telescope in the world. So I think it's probably still in the top 10, but still pretty impressive. And what was really neat was when we were here, there's a viewing gallery where the regular tourists get to see the telescope. We got to go in and wander around on the telescope floor, but the regular tourists had to stay up there. So again, that's because we were amateur astronomers, and we were treated very well by the professional community that worked at the observatory. They seemed to recognize us as kindred spirits, and that was nice. So just if you haven't figured out already, I thought this was a real treat. It was really nice to have that opportunity, and it was really kind of pretty to get up there on the top. So I had one good night of observing. We had clouds most of the time I was there. I did get a chance to meet and greet with some nice Canadian folks there, including Terence Dickinson, and really enjoyed the presentations and the other activities that were there. One really glorious night. The rest of the time, unfortunately, was cloudy. Whoops. But one of the things that was nice was the presentation room. So you see here, gives you an idea of how many folks fit into that auditorium, and the presentations were really good. Like I said, we had some excellent speakers, really cool folks were there. And Terence won a Lifetime Achievement Award while we were there, and that was kind of nice to see him do that. They got a presentation out of him, and then they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Smart guys. In terms of getting there, I got a direct flight to Austin. That was easy. I put everything into one check-on Pelican case, and I was able to grab a local 12-volt battery pack for $20. I brought a sleeping bag and a pillowcase, and the rest of everything else was pretty well just for the trip. So I was able to get everything on within a reasonable luggage allowance, and fly down there, rent a car, and get away with a really quick visit. And I think that was sort of the thing that really struck me, was that I thought Texas Star Party was something, well, I'd have to rent a trailer and make a big trip of it kind of thing, but you can go there with less and make a good trip of it. I think if I do go to visit again, I probably will bring my trailer next time, because I have one of those now. But the fact that we have all of these services on site, it was about $800 to do this 10 years ago, and it was definitely, I would definitely recommend looking into it. So with that, I thought I would bring you up to date as to where the Texas Star Party is at right now. So it's just happened. Everything seemed to go really well. So they had a really good program. They said thanks a lot for everything. These were some of the, they had their, a whole group of astronomy clubs that cooperate to bring this about, and I think that's where they get a lot of their folks there. And they had essentially a bit of a COVID-19 policy, but in terms of everything here, they had a really good event. Everything was up and running, and it looks like it's already set again for next year. So from what I could see from their checking out their website and Facebook and so forth, looks like this is still a going concern. Lots of people there. The meeting room looks pretty full from the pictures I saw on their Facebook site. So it looks like it's an option for us for next year. So we should keep it in mind. So registration opens around November, and it's you can look ahead to May 14th to the 23rd next year. That is the next Texas Star Party. And just as a way of kind of wrapping up my presentation, I'll just show to you, whoops, if I can find it again, a time-lapse picture of the site, which gives you an idea of what it looked like that one clear night we had when it was nice and clear. Pardon me while I reboot this. There we go. And here it comes. I think, yep, it's loading. Wait for it. And while this is playing, I'll entertain any questions that anyone might have. If I can get it to run. Oh my, server execution failed. Maybe not. Okay, let's not try and do that. Oh, there it goes. Well, it was going. Wanted to get it full screen. Any questions? I'm not hearing anything on the audio, so I'm feeling a little
Dennis.
cut off. Hello.
We're here. Hi, Dennis. Thank you for your presentation. That was great. Thanks again for bringing it to our attention. Any questions, Emma?
Yeah, we got a few questions and a few comments.
Okay.
First comment coming in from Dave Prosper. The vendors have dropped off quite a bit the last time I was there, 2018, but there were still several vendors. He got a light up moon globe.
Nice.
Also from Dave, seeing Omega Centauri naked eye there was startling and amazing, and seeing galaxies pretty clearly in binos, just cresting the horizon even. I've never experienced anything truly quite like it.
Good, good.
Dave then goes on to ask, did you take any part in the late night snack shop by any chance? They have some good hot cocoa.
No, I don't think I heard about that. Like, we had just the one night when we were observing, and I was basically trying to get my telescope to go, and then I was mooching off of other observers, so I don't think I made it to the snack night, unfortunately. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. This next comment comes in from Eric Briggs. He says, yes, I did not go to Starfest in 2018, but the report said there were fewer vendors and that Epson Science is gone.
We're talking Starfest or Texas Star Party?
Starfest, I believe.
Yeah, Starfest. I mean, yeah, Starfest. The last time I was there were three vendors: Conscope, KW Telescope, and fellow from Ottawa, O2, I think. So they do come and go a little bit. And I know for Starfest and for all of these places, it's a big commitment on the part of the vendors to actually put all their stuff in a truck and take it to one of these remote locations. So I do appreciate it when they do show up. But yes, it's not always that you're going to find the best deals or whatever, but it is kind of cool to see some of the stuff. And like I say, some of these folks have saved people's entire observing event because they had the right part or the right component that they needed at the right time.
Right. This last question comes in from Chris Vaughn about the Texas Star Party. Are they on the path of totality for the April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse?
That is a great question, Chris. I think not, but I think that that a lot of the scenery and sort of the general dryness in that general area would be consistent with what you would find out there. I'll see if I can pull up that quickly and just answer your question directly. Let me just stop this here. There we go. And see if we can answer your question correctly. There we go. And so we look at the Texas path. It's going to go through come on. Oh, here we are. So where we were for the Texas Star Party is roughly in this part of Texas here. So it's going to miss it, but and you can see how the path of totality goes quite close to Austin. So I drove all the way over here. In fact, the next time I go, it's probably better to fly to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and drive back this way. But I had, like I said, I had a business meeting there. So it's going to go through all of these areas, and it's going to miss that area. But you know, you could consider, you know, an opportunity maybe to take in the eclipse and then go to take in the star party afterwards, because it'll probably be the same weekend. Or I'm not sure how they're going to handle that exactly. Obviously, they'll be pulling people in two different directions, but yeah, it's conceivably not impossible to do both. And certainly MacDonald Observatory is always there.
Great. Well, that's it for questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity. And we'll see everyone next month.
Hey, Dennis, don't go yet.
I'm not going yet. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe I missed it. Is it a weekend event, or is it through the week as well?
It's through the week as well. So the most of the talks and everything are on the Friday, Saturday, I believe. Mm-hmm. But it's like Starfest. You can set up on as early as Monday, and quote unquote, you're part of the star party then. Mm-hmm. But the talks and the facilities and so forth crank up to full availability over the weekend.
Very good. All right. Thanks, Dennis.
All right. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.